Captain Zix of the Galactic Confederation's 7th Exploration Fleet stared at the viewscreen, his 3 eye stalks twitching in confusion. The scene before him was, to put it mildly, perplexing. To put it accurately, it was absolutely batshit insane. Are they laughing?" he asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and growing concern for his own sanity. His second-in-command, Lieutenant QWERTY, yes, that was her actual name. And no, she didn't appreciate the humans constantly asking her if she was feeling all typewriter. Zoomed in on the battlefield. "It appears so, sir." The humans seem to be engaging in some form of vocalization that involves rhythmic exhalation and, oh glorb, are those tears. Indeed, the human soldiers were not just laughing. They were in hysterics. Tears streamed down their faces as they ducked behind cover, popped out to fire a few shots, and then collapsed back into fits of giggles. "This doesn't make any sense," Zix exclaimed, his exasperation evident in the way his tentacles flailed about. "We're in the middle of a battle. They should be terrified, angry, determined. Not, whatever this is." As if to punctuate his point, a human soldier on the screen below leaned out from behind a boulder, fired a precise shot that took out 3 advancing robot drones, then yelled something that sounded suspiciously like yippee-ki-yay, motherfoo, before dissolving into laughter so intense he nearly dropped his weapon. QWERTY, ever the voice of reason, or at least the voice of let's state the obvious because apparently that's my job now, chimed in. "Sir, perhaps we should consider the possibility that the humans have some sort of tactical advantage we're not aware of." Zix turned all 3 of his eye stalks to glare at her. "Oh really, QWERTY, you think? What gave it away? The fact that they're treating this like some sort of intergalactic comedy club while we're getting our tentacles handed to us." The lieutenant wisely chose to ignore her captain's sarcasm. "I suggest we try to establish communication with their command. Maybe we can." "I don't know, ask them what's so funny." "Brilliant idea," Zix exclaimed, his voice dripping with more sarcasm than a Venusian slug drips slime. "Let's just ring them up and ask, 'Excuse me, terribly sorry to bother you mid-battle, but would you mind explaining the punchline? We seem to have missed it somewhere between your first salvo and our 15th casualty." Despite his skepticism, Zix knew they were out of options. The battle was going poorly for the Confederation forces, and if they didn't figure out what was giving the humans their edge besides their apparent ability to find humor in the face of death, they'd be forced to retreat. And Zix really didn't want to explain to High Command how they'd lost a battle to a bunch of giggling primates. "Fine," he grumbled. "Open a channel to the human commander. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of this." Hilarity. As QWERTY worked to establish communication, Zix couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, he should have listened to his mother and gone into the far less stressful field of quantum gastronomy. Sure, dealing with particles that could be in 2 states at once was tricky, but at least subatomic and trees didn't laugh at you while they were trying to kill you. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of the human commander. To Zix utter lack of surprise at this point, the man was grinning from ear to ear, occasional chuckles escaping between words as he spoke. "This is Commander Jack Hawkins of the Earth Defense Force. To what do I owe the pleasure, Captain? Sorry, I don't think I caught your name. Is it something I can pronounce without dislocating my jaw?" Zix bristled. "I am Captain Zix of the Galactic Confederation's 7th Exploration Fleet, and I demand to know what is going on down there." Hawkins raised an eyebrow. "Going on? Why, we're having a battle, of course. I thought that was pretty obvious, what with all the shooting and explosions and whatnot." "That's not what I meant," Zix snapped, his patience wearing thinner than the plot of a soap opera. "Why are your soldiers laughing? What could possibly be so amusing about a life or death situation?" The human commander's grin widened, if that was even possible. "Oh that, well, you see, Captain Zix. Zix. Can I just call you Zix? Great. You see, Zix, we humans have this little thing called humor. It's a coping mechanism, really. Helps us deal with stress, fear, and the general absurdity of existence. And let me tell you, invading aliens, pretty absurd." When Zix felt a headache coming on, he made a mental note to ask the ship's doctor if it was possible for a species without a central nervous system to develop migraines. But, how does laughing help you fight?" Hawkins shrugged. "It's not so much that it helps us fight per se, it's more that it keeps us from freaking out. You ever try to aim a weapon when you're scared out of your mind? It's not easy. But when you're laughing, well, everything just seems a bit more manageable." That's ridiculous," Zix sputtered. "Laughter is a battle tactic. It defies all logic." Well, Hawkins chuckled. To quote a great Earth philosopher, "Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end, but if you really want to understand. How about a demonstration?" Before Zix could protest, Hawkins turned to someone off-screen and nodded. Suddenly, the battlefield comm channel erupted with voices. "Hey guys," one soldier shouted. "Why don't aliens eat clowns?" "I don't know," Jimmy, another voice responded. "Why don't aliens eat clowns?" "Because they taste funny." The entire human force erupted in laughter, even as they continued to expertly maneuver and fire upon the increasingly confused Confederation troops. Zix-Norp stared at the screen, his mouth agape, which, given his species' anatomy, was quite a sight to behold. What was that? Hawkins wiped a tear from his eye. That, my dear Captain, was a joke, a play on words, if you will. You see, funny can mean both humorous and strange or off-tasting. It's a double meaning that. You know what? Never mind. The point is, it's funny to us, but it makes no sense, Zix-Norp protested. Clowns aren't a food source, and even if they were, their profession wouldn't affect their flavor. And that, Hawkins said with a wink, is exactly why it's funny. Now, want to hear a knock-knock joke? Before Zix-Norp could decline, or more accurately, before he could scream no at the top of his lungs, Hawkins had already started. Knock-knock. Zix-Norp looked at QWERTY, who shrugged her shoulders, or what passed for shoulders in her species, helplessly. I don't understand, Zix-Norp said. Who's there? Where are they knocking? Is this some sort of covert infiltration tactic? Hawkins sighed. No, you're supposed to say who's there, it's their part of the joke. Let's try again. Knock knock. Feeling like he had somehow stepped into an alternate universe where nothing made sense anymore, Zix-Norp reluctantly played along. Who's there? Interrupting cow. Zix-Norp blinked, all 6 of his eyes in rapid succession. Interrupting cow woo. M.O. Hawkins bellowed, causing Zix-Norp to jump back in surprise, his tentacles flailing wildly. The human command center erupted in laughter. And even on the battlefield, soldiers who had heard the exchange over the comms were doubled over, gasping for air between fits of giggles. I don't understand, Zix-Norp said weakly. What does this have to do with battle tactics? Hawkins, still chuckling, shook his head. It's not about battle tactics, Zix. It's about morale. It's about keeping our spirits up in the face of danger. It's about being human. As if to demonstrate his point, another voice came over the comm. Hey, Captain Hawkins, why did the alien cross the galaxy? Hawkins grinned. I don't know, Johnson. Why did the alien cross the galaxy? To get to the other tide. More laughter erupted, and Zix-Norp watched in growing dismay as the human forces, energized by their shared mirth, began to push back the Confederation troops with renewed vigor. This is madness, Zix-Norp muttered. Complete and utter madness. QWERTY, who had been quiet for some time, suddenly spoke up. Sir, I hate to interrupt your existential crisis, but I think I get it. Zix-Norp turned to her, hope flickering in his eyes. You do? Please enlighten me, because I'm about 5 minutes away from requesting a transfer to the Quantum Gastronomy Division. Well, Sir, QWERTY began, her voice taking on an unusually contemplative tone. Think about it. We came here expecting a straightforward battle, strategies, tactics, the usual stuff. But the humans, they're not playing by our rules. They're not even playing the same game. So what are you saying? Zix-Norp asked, his curiosity piqued despite his frustration. I'm saying that maybe, just maybe, their laughter is their secret weapon. It's not about the jokes themselves. It's about what the jokes represent. Unity, resilience, the ability to find joy even in the darkest moments. And sir, I think that might be more powerful than any weapon we have. Zix-Norp stared at his second in command, a mix of awe and disbelief on his face. QWERTY, that's actually profound. When did you get so insightful? QWERTY shrugged. I've been taking an online course in human psychology. You'd be surprised what you can learn during those long night shifts. Before Zix-Norp could respond, Hawkins' voice came through the comm again. So Captain Zix, what do you say? Ready to call it quits? Or do you want to hear a few more jokes? I've got a great one about a Plutonian, a Martian, and a human walking into a bar. Zix-Norp looked at the battlefield display, then at QWERTY, then back at Hawkins' grinning face on the view screen. He took a deep breath, or whatever passed for breathing in his species, and made a decision. Commander Hawkins, he said, his voice a mixture of resignation and curiosity, I believe we may have misunderstood each other. Perhaps it's time we talked, really talked. And maybe you could explain a few more of these jokes to me. Hawkins' grin softened into a genuine smile. I'd be happy to, Captain. And who knows, by the end of our chat, we might just have you laughing too. As the orders went out to cease fire and prepare for negotiations, Zix-Norp couldn't help but wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, there was something to this whole humor thing after all. And if nothing else, he mused, it would make for one hell of a story at the next Galactic Confederation mixer. Little did Zix-Norp know, his adventure in understanding human humor was just beginning. Over the next few hours, as peace talks progressed in fits and starts much like a teenager learning to drive a manual transmission, the alien captain found himself on a roller coaster ride through the weird and wonderful world of human comedy. Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, Zix-Norp said, his tentacles twitching in what Hawkins had come to recognize as the alien equivalent of a furrowed brow. So when you say, why did the chicken cross the road, the humor comes from the expectation of a complex answer. But instead, you provide a simple, obvious one. Hawkins nodded encouragingly. That's right, you're getting it, Zix. The joke plays with our expectations. We're set up to expect something clever or insightful, but instead we get. To get to the other side, Zix Norp finished, a note of triumph in his voice. Fascinating. It's like a verbal bait and switch. We have something similar in our culture, but it usually ends with someone being ritually disemboweled. Hawkins blinked. Right. Let's maybe stick to knock-knock jokes for now. As the hours wore on, the battlefield that had once echoed with the sounds of warfare now rang with an altogether different noise, the tentative, slightly confused laughter of aliens trying to understand human humor. So a Zubot drone buzzed, its LED eyes flickering in what might have been concentration. When you say a priest, a rabbi, and an imam walk into a bar, you're not actually describing a real event. A human soldier patted the drone on its metallic shoulder, careful to avoid the still warm laser cannon. That's right, buddy. It's a setup for a joke. The humor comes from putting these different religious figures in an unexpected situation. But why a bar? The drone persisted. Wouldn't a place of worship be more appropriate? Well, that's part of the you-know-what. Never mind. Let's try a different one. Have you ever heard about the claustrophobic astronaut? Meanwhile, QWERTY found herself in an intense discussion with a group of human scientists about the finer points of wordplay. So let me see if I understand, she said, her appendages moving in complex patterns as she worked through the concept. When you say I'm reading a book on anti-gravity, it's impossible to put down. The humor derives from the double meaning of put down. One of the scientists, a bespectacled woman with a mop of unruly hair, nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Put down can mean both to physically lower something and to stop reading a book. The anti-gravity reference ties into the first meaning, creating a play on words. QWERTY's eye stalks wiggled in what the humans had learned was her species' equivalent of a smile. Fascinating. We have something similar in our language, but it usually involves the multiple meanings of our word for to digest and often ends with someone being ritually disemboweled. The scientists exchanged worried glances. Maybe we should move on to puns. Back at the command center, Zix Norp was having a breakthrough of his own. I think I've got it, he exclaimed, startling Hawkins, who had been in the middle of explaining the concept of dad jokes. The humor in your battle strategy isn't just about the jokes themselves. It's about creating a shared experience, isn't it? A way to build camaraderie and reduce stress in high-pressure situations. Hawkins grinned. Now you're getting it, Zix. It's not just about the laughs. It's about bringing people together, creating a sense of unity in the face of adversity. When we laugh together, we fight better together. Zix Norp's eye stalks stretched to their full length, quivering with excitement. This is revolutionary. Do you realize what this could mean for intergalactic relations if we could harness the power of humor as a diplomatic tool? Slow down there, Captain Hawkins Che. Slow down there, Captain Hawkins chuckled, holding up his hands. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've still got a lot of ground to cover before we start using knock-knock-knock jokes as a foundation for galactic peace. Zix Norp deflated slightly, his tentacles drooping. Oh yes, of course, my apologies, I got carried away. Hey, no need to apologize, Hawkins said, patting the alien on what he hoped was a shoulder and not some vital organ. Enthusiasm is good. It's just, well, humor can be a tricky thing. What's funny to one species might be deeply offensive to another. As if on cue, a commotion erupted from the other side of the command center. A group of Zerobot drones were clustered around a human soldier who looked like he was trying very hard to sink into the floor. What do you mean? Why did the robot cross the road? One of the drones was buzzing indignantly. We do not cross roads. We calculate the most efficient path and execute it with precision. It's just a joke, the soldier was saying, his face a mix of embarrassment and growing panic. You know, like the chicken one. Are you comparing us to poultry? Another drone demanded, its laser sights activating ominously. Hawkins sighed. See what I mean? Come on, Zix. Let's go do some damage control before we have an interstellar incident over poultry-based humor. As they made their way across the room, Zix Norp couldn't help but marvel at the complexity of human interactions. Just when he thought he was starting to understand, some new facet of their behavior would throw him for a loop. It was frustrating, yes, but also oddly exhilarating. Commander Hawkins, he said as they walked. I have a question. Shoot, Hawkins replied, then quickly added, that means go ahead, not, actually shoot. Zix Norp nodded, filing away another peculiarity of human language for later analysis. I understand that humor can help in stressful situations, but surely there must be times when it's inappropriate. How do you know when to joke and when to be serious? Hawkins paused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. That's a good question, Zix. And to be honest, we don't always get it right. It's a delicate balance. Sometimes humor can diffuse tension, but other times it can make things worse. It's all about reading the room, understanding the social context. I see, Zix Norp said, though his furrowed eye stalk suggested he didn't entirely see it all. And how does one learn this skill? Practice. Mostly, Hawkins shrugged. trial and error. Sometimes you tell a joke and everyone laughs. Sometimes you tell a joke and you end up having to apologize to an entire race of sentient robots. They had reached the group of agitated Zrobots by this point. The drones were still buzzing angrily, their metallic appendages gesticulating in what Zixnorp recognized as signs of extreme agitation. The human soldier looked like he was seriously considering the merits of spontaneous human combustion as an escape route. All right, what seems to be the problem here?" Hawkins asked, his voice taking on a tone of authority that seemed to quiet even the angriest of the drones. "This human," one of the Zrobots said, its voice crackling with static, "has insulted us by comparing our complex decision-making algorithms to the instinctive behavior of Earth fowl." The soldier opened his mouth to protest, but Hawkins silenced him with a look. "I see. And did you consider that perhaps this human was attempting to include you in a cultural exchange? That maybe, just maybe, he was trying to share something uniquely human with you as a gesture of friendship?" The Zrobots fell silent, their LED eyes flickering as they processed this information. Finally, the lead drone spoke again, its voice noticeably calmer. "We had not considered that possibility. Our social interaction protocols may require updating." Hawkins grinned. "Well, there's no time like the present to start that update. How about we all sit down and exchange some jokes? I'm sure our Zrobot friends here have some great ones about inefficient code or loose wires." To Zixnorp's amazement, the tension in the group visibly dissipated. The Zrobots clustered around the human soldier, their angry buzzing replaced by curious beeps and whirs as they began to exchange jokes. "That was impressive," Zixnorp said as he and Hawkins moved away from the group. "You diffused the situation without resorting to threats or violence. Is this another application of humor in human culture?" Hawkins chuckled. "Not exactly. That was more about diplomacy and understanding. But humor can be a part of that too. It's all about finding common ground, you know? Even if that common ground is just laughing at how absurd the universe can be sometimes." Zixnorp nodded slowly, his eye stalk swaying in deep thought. "I think I'm beginning to understand. Your humor isn't just about amusement. It's a tool for connection, for breaking down barriers between different beings." "Now you're getting it," Hawkins said, clapping Zixnorp on the back and immediately regretting it as his hand came away covered in some sort of viscous slime. "Sorry about that. Do you guys shake tentacles or something?" Before Zixnorp could answer, a commotion from the other side of the room caught their attention. QWERTY was standing in the middle of a group of human scientists, all of whom were doubled over with laughter. And then QWERTY was saying, her voice filled with an excitement Zixnorp had never heard before. "The quantum physicist says, well, that's a superposition I never thought I'd find myself in." The humans erupted into fresh peals of laughter, some of them actually wiping tears from their eyes. QWERTY stood there, her eye stalks wiggling in what Zixnorp now recognized as her species' version of a proud grin. "Well, I'll be damned," Hawkins murmured. "Looks like your second in command is a natural." Zixnorp watched the scene with a mixture of confusion and pride. "I don't understand. What was the joke?" Hawkins patted him on the shoulder carefully this time, avoiding the slime. "Don't worry about it, Zix. It's a physics joke." Half the humans laughing probably didn't get it either, but that's not the point. The point is, your officer there has managed to connect with a group of humans using their own form of humor. That's pretty incredible." As they watched, one of the scientists said something to QWERTY that made her whole body vibrate with what could only be described as alien laughter. The humans around her cheered and patted her on the back, quickly wiping their hands on their lab coats afterward. "You know," Zixnorp said slowly, "when we first encountered your species, we thought you were, well, primitive, backward, hopelessly outmatched," Hawkins supplied helpfully. Zixnorp's eye stalks drooped in embarrassment. "Well, yes. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your political system seemed chaotic at best. And your obsession with creating food items in the shape of other food items is, quite frankly, baffling." Hawkins laughed. "Can't argue with you on that last one. Have you seen our egg-shaped chocolates? We're a weird bunch, no doubt about it." But Zixnorp continued, "I'm beginning to think we may have underestimated you. This humor of yours, it's more than just a quirk of your species. It's a survival mechanism, isn't it? A way to cope with the chaos and uncertainty of the universe." Hawkins nodded, his expression becoming serious for a moment. "You're not wrong, Zix. Life can be tough, you know. The universe is vast, often cruel, and frequently absurd. Sometimes, laughing is the only thing that keeps us sane." Zixnorp was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then, hesitantly, he asked, "Commander Hawkins, do you think you could teach me? About humor, I mean. I think it might be important for the future of our relations." Hawkins grinned, a twinkle in his eye. "Zix, my friend, I thought you'd never ask, but I warn you it's not going to be easy. We'll start you off with some dad jokes and work our way up to puns. By the time we're done, you'll either be the life of the party or banned from every diplomatic function in the galaxy." "I'm willing to take that risk," Zixnorp said solemnly. "All right then," Hawkins rubbed his hands together. "Let's start with an easy one. Why don't scientists trust atoms?" Zixnorp's eye stalks quivered in confusion. Is this a commentary on the unpredictable nature of quantum mechanics? No, Hawkins chuckled. It's because atoms make up everything. Zixnorp stared at him blankly. You see, Hawkins explained. Makeup can mean both to compose and to fabricate or lie, so atoms literally make up everything in a physical sense. But the joke suggests they're untrustworthy because they make up everything in the sense of lying. Zixnorp's eye stalks slowly began to twitch, then vibrate, and then, to Hawkins' amazement, the alien let out a sound that could only be described as a cross between a wheeze and a gurgle. It took Hawkins a moment to realize that Zixnorp was laughing. I think I get it, Zixnorp exclaimed between alien chuckles. It's a play on the dual meaning of the phrase makeup. That's actually quite clever. Hawkins beamed. See? You're getting it already. Want to hear another one? Before Zixnorp could answer, an alarm blared through the command center. Both human and alien heads and various other sensory appendages turned towards the main view screen. Uh-oh, Hawkins muttered. Looks like we've got company. The screen flickered to life, showing a massive fleet of ships entering the system. Their design was unlike anything Zixnorp had ever seen, all angles and sharp edges, as if someone had weaponized abstract art. Friends of yours? Hawkins asked, his voice tense. Zixnorp shook his head, his eye stalks quivering with anxiety. No, I've never seen ships like that before. They're not Confederation, and they're certainly not human. As they watched, the lead ship of the mysterious fleet broadcast a message. The language was unlike anything the universal translators had ever encountered, a series of screeches and clicks that set everyone's teeth or equivalent structures on edge. Well, Hawkins said, a grim smile on his face. Looks like the universe has decided to throw us another curveball. You ready to put your new skills to the test, Zix? Zixnorp looked at him in confusion. My new skills? You mean? Humor? Against an unknown alien threat? Hawkins nodded. Like I said, sometimes laughing is the only thing that keeps us sane. And who knows? Maybe your first intergalactic knock-knock joke will save us all. As the unknown fleet drew closer and alarms blared throughout the base, Zixnorp took a deep breath, or the closest approximation his species could manage. Very well, Commander. I'm ready to try, but perhaps we should start with something simpler than a knock-knock joke. How about, why did the alien cross the galaxy? Hawkins grinned, despite the tense situation. I don't know, Zix. Why did the alien cross the galaxy? Zixnorp paused for dramatic effect, then delivered the punchline with as much flair as he could muster to get to the other tide. There was a moment of silence in the command center. Then, starting with a snort from QWERTY and building to a full-blown roar, laughter erupted throughout the room. Humans, Zerobots, and Confederation aliens alike found themselves united in mirth, even as the unknown threat loomed ever closer. As Hawkins wiped tears of laughter from his eyes, he clapped Zixnorp on the back, remembering too late about the slime, but deciding it was worth it. You know what, Zix? I think we might just make it through this after all. Now, let's go see if we can't solve this invasion with a good old-fashioned comedy routine. And so, as the mysterious alien fleet entered orbit, they were greeted not by weapons fire or stern ultimatums, but by the most unlikely diplomatic team the galaxy had ever seen. A human commander with a penchant for bad puns, and an alien captain who had just discovered the joy of dad jokes. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. As the mysterious alien fleet entered orbit, tensions in the command center reached a fever pitch. Humans and Confederation aliens alike watched with bated breath as the lead ship of the unknown armada positioned itself directly above them. Well, Hawkins said, straightening his uniform, I guess it's showtime. You ready for this, Zix? Zixnorp's eye stalks quivered with a mix of anxiety and excitement. As ready as I'll ever be, Commander. Though I must admit, I'm not sure how my newly acquired joke about the alien crossing the galaxy is going to help us here. Hawkins grinned. Trust me, Zix. Sometimes a well-timed joke can work miracles. And if not, well, at least we'll go out laughing. As if on cue, the main view screen crackled to life, revealing the interior of the alien flagship. The beings that appeared on the screen were, well, bizarre would be putting it mildly. They looked like someone had taken a bunch of geometric shapes, thrown them into a blender with some neon paint, and then asked a drunk octopus to reassemble them. The lead alien, a pulsating dodecahedron with what might have been eyes or possibly air fresheners protruding from each facet, spoke. The universal translator crackled and sparked, clearly struggling with the alien language. Greetings, inferior life forms. The translation finally came through, the volume making everyone in the command center wince. We are the Zixclort. Your planets are ripe for harvesting, prepared to be geometrically reassembled for optimal resource extraction. There was a moment of stunned silence in the command center. Then, to everyone's surprise, Zixnorp stepped forward. Excuse me, he said, his voice remarkably steady, but did you say geometrically reassembled? The dodecahedron alien pulsated in what might have been confusion. Affirmative. ITIS, the most efficient method of resource extraction. Zixnorp's eye stalks twitched in what Hawkins now recognized as the alien equivalent of raising an eyebrow. I see. And tell me, oh great Zixclort, Why did you cross the galaxy to get here? The alien leader's facets glowed brighter. We crossed the galaxy because. This is not a relevant query. Prepare for reassembly. Oh, I think it's very relevant, Zixnorp continued, warming to his theme. You see, I recently learned that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination, or, in this case, the punchline. Punchline, the alien leader's confusion was palpable now. Explain this concept. Hawkins, catching on to what Zixnorp was doing, chimed in. Oh, it's simple really. A punchline is the culmination of a joke. You know, like why the alien crossed the galaxy. The Zixclort leader's facets dimmed and brightened in rapid succession. A sight that was both mesmerizing and slightly nauseating. Why? Why did the alien cross the galaxy? Zixnorp and Hawkins exchanged a glance, then said in unison, to get to the other tide. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then, to everyone's astonishment, the Zixclort leader began to vibrate. At first, Hawkins thought they were powering up some sort of weapon, but then a sound emerged from the alien ship, a sound that started as a low hum and gradually built into something that could only be described as laughter. Hey, alien leader intoned, its entire form shaking with mirth. This is amusing. The concept of crossing vast distances for a linguistic play on words. Most illogical. Most entertaining. Encouraged by this unexpected turn of events, Hawkins decided to push their luck. Hey, want to hear another one? Why don't scientists trust atoms? The Zixclort leader's facets pulsed with interest. Query, why do scientists not trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Hawkins delivered the punchline with a flourish. This time, the laughter from the alien ship was immediate and explosive. The Zixclort leader's geometric form actually began to shift and reshape itself as it guffawed. Most amusing, the alien declared. The dual meaning of make you pee in your primitive language creates an unexpected cognitive dissonance that results in a pleasurable neural response. We wish to experience more of this. Humor. Zixnorp, emboldened by their success, stepped forward again. Well, in that case, have you heard about the claustrophobic astronaut? For the next hour, the command center was filled with the most unlikely sound, the laughter of humans, Confederation aliens, and geometric space invaders, all united by the universal language of bad jokes and puns. As the laughter finally began to die down, the Zixclort leader's form settled back into its original dodecahedron shape. We have made a decision, it announced. The concept of humor is far too valuable a resource to destroy. We wish to learn more. Hawkins, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes, grinned at the alien leader. Well, my geometrically gifted friend, I think we can arrange that. How about we start with a cultural exchange? You teach us about optimal resource extraction, and we'll teach you about knock-knock jokes. Deal. Deal, the Zixclort leader agreed. But first, we have a query. Why did the Zixclort cross the galaxy? Zixnorp and Hawkins exchanged a glance. We don't know, Zixnorp said cautiously. Why did the Zixclort cross the galaxy? The alien leader's facets glowed with pride. To prove it was no obtuse angle. Hey. The command center erupted into groans and chuckles. Not bad, Hawkins admitted. A little geometric humor. We'll make comedians out of you yet. As the humans and aliens began to mingle, swapping jokes and stories, Zixnorp turned to Hawkins. You know, Commander, when I woke up this morning, I never imagined I'd be averting an intergalactic war with bad puns. Hawkins chuckled. Welcome to life with humans, Zix. Expect the unexpected. Always be ready with a good joke, and never underestimate the power of laughter. I'm beginning to see that Zixnorp agreed. Though I must admit, I'm a bit worried about the long-term implications of introducing the concept of humor to a race of geometric beings capable of reshaping reality. Hawkins shrugged. Hey, look on the bright side. At least family gatherings across the galaxy are about to get a lot more interesting. Now, want to go teach the Zixclort about rubber chickens? And so, as the sun set on what had started as a day of battle and ended as a comedy festival, the universe shifted ever so slightly on its axis. In the grand cosmic joke that was existence, a new punchline had been written, and somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, the stars themselves seemed to twinkle with laughter.